Good morning all of you. Today in this video lecture we are going to discuss about pteridophytes. In the previous classes we had discussed about bryophytes as well as thallophytes, and I do believe that you have come to know that the bryophytes are much more evolved than the thallophytes, that is algae and fungi. So in this chapter we will come to know that pteridophytes are the more evolved version of plants as compared to bryophytes. Okay, even though the pteridophytes are included under the same group of cryptogams, that is seedless plants, as the bryophytes and thallophytes. Got it? So let us start the pteridophytes. So as far as pteridophytes are concerned, the term pteridophyte has been derived from two words, pteris, that is feather, and phyton means plant. Okay, two words, pteris and phyton, they make up the pteridophyte. Feather, that is, and plant. So a plant having feather-like leaves, that is a pteridophyte. So these are the first land plants. Okay, remember it. And also the most important thing is that these are vascular cryptogams. Okay, as they belong to cryptogams, so obviously they are seedless, but unlike the bryophytes, which were non-vascular, here the pteridophytes are vascular cryptogams. They are otherwise known as the botanical snakes. Why? Because like in animals, the snakes were the first one to have lived on land. Similarly, in case of plants, the pteridophytes are the first one to colonize the lands. Okay. They were dominant during the late Paleozoic era. So the late Paleozoic era is considered as the age of pteridophytes. So these are some of the general introductory part as far as your pteridophyte is concerned. Now let us jump into the general characteristics of your pteridophytes. What is their habitat? They grow in cool, damp and shady places. And the most important thing is that the life cycle is diplo-haplontic. That means there is presence of a diploid phase as well as a haploid phase. The difference between pteridophytes and bryophytes is that in case of pteridophyte, the plant body is a sporophyte, and that sporophyte is diploid in nature. In addition to that, not only it is diploid, it is also your dominant as well as autotrophic in nature. Okay, the plant body is dominant as well as autotrophic, that is independent in nature. Whereas the gametophyte, that represents the haploid phase of its life cycle, is represented by a small prothallus. Okay, and it is totally dependent on sporophyte. Got it? But as far as bryophytes were concerned, there the plant body was a gametophyte and it was dominant and it was long-lived. Whereas sporophyte was dependent on gametophyte and it was short-lived. But here just the opposite one. The sporophyte is long-lived and diploid and independent, whereas your gametophyte is short-lived and is haploid in nature, and also it is dependent on sporophyte. Okay. So main body is sporophyte and the gametophyte is represented by a small prothallus. Plant body is differentiated into roots, stems and leaves, but remember in bryophytes we had studied that plant bodies, there was no differentiation of plant body into roots, stems and leaf-like structure, but here the plant body has a distinct root system, stems and leaves. Okay. Here primary root is short-lived and is sooner or later replaced by adventitious roots. Okay. Now let us see some of the pictures of pteridophytes. You can see this is an example. This is diagram of Dryopteris, a pteridophyte, which I think you have come across in your shady and moist places. Very clearly visible right here. Okay. Now next picture is of Equisetum. It is another pteridophyte. This one is Selaginella. This is a pteridophyte. Then this one is the Dryopteris sori. These are the sori. The blackish structures are called sori. We will know about it, discuss about it, what are sori. Okay, so these were some of the pictures regarding pteridophytes. Now let us come to some of the other general characters of pteridophytes. Well, as far as pteridophytes are concerned, the stems do not arise from the axil of leaves. Okay, and in some of the pteridophytes, the stems are modified into rhizomes. The stems are modified into rhizomes. As in the first slide, I have already told you that these are vascular cryptogams. Vascular means presence of vascular tissues, that is xylem and phloem are present. So these are characterized by the presence of xylem and phloem. Okay, here xylem is represented by tracheids only, whereas phloem is represented by seed tubes only. Got it? So when you compare it with the angiosperms, you can see that in case of angiosperms, xylem is represented by tracheids and vessels, whereas in case of phloem, in angiosperms, there is presence of seed tubes and companion cells. But here only tracheids in case of xylem and seed tubes in case of phloem are present. Got it? Then reproduction occurs by spores. We know that this is a seedless plant. So here reproduction is through spores. And the spores are produced within specialized structures called sporangia. Got it? The spores are produced within specialized structures called sporangia. Now sporangia, where they are found? They are borne on ventral surface of leaves called sporophylls. They are found on the ventral surface of leaves called sporophylls. So leaves bearing the sporangia are called sporophylls. Okay. Then we come to know about sori. So on sporophylls, these sporangia are either found singly or in groups called sori. When they are found in groups, they are called sori. So in the previous slide that I had shown the picture of sori, the blackish structures, they are nothing but group of sporangia. So what is happening inside sporangia? Inside the sporangia you have got spores. Okay. Now in some sporophylls, in some pteridophytes, the sporophylls, they form compact structure which are otherwise known as strobili or cones, that I will show you in the diagram. In some pteridophytes, the sporophylls form compact structures called strobili or cones. Okay, those pteridophytes include Selaginella, Equisetum. Got it? You know what are sporophylls? The leaves bearing the sporangia are called sporophylls. So sometimes these sporophylls form compact structure. They are called cones or strobili. Where they are found? In case of Selaginella and Equisetum. So in case of aquatic species, that is those pteridophytes which are aquatic in nature, the sporangia are born within special structure, and those structures are called sporocarp. Remember it. Sporocarp is the specialized structure inside which the sporangia are born, and this is a typical feature in case of aquatic pteridophytes. Example is Azolla, Isoetes, Salvinia. These are all aquatic pteridophytes. Okay. So pteridophytes, most of the pteridophytes are homosporous, but some are also heterosporous. So as far as pteridophytes are concerned, generally they are homosporous. Homo means same. So they produce one type of spores. If one type of spores are produced, they are called homosporous. But some of the pteridophytes are also heterosporous. That means two different types of spores are formed. What are those? So as you can see here in this slide, some of the pteridophytes are heterosporous, producing two types of spores. What are those two types of spores? One is microspore, another one is megaspore. So microspore is born within microsporangia and megaspore is born within megasporangia. Okay, these microspores are smaller in structure and they are born within microsporangia, and megaspores are larger in structure and they are called as megasporangia. They are born within megasporangia. So some of the heterosporous species of pteridophytes include Selaginella, Marsilia, Azolla, etc. Okay, Selaginella, Marsilia, Azolla, etc. Leaves bearing microsporangia are called microsporophyll. We know that leaves bearing sporangia are called sporophyll. So in case of heterosporous species, microsporangia and megasporangia are found. So the leaves bearing microsporangia are called microsporophyll, whereas those with megasporangia are called megasporophyll. That means in a simple way we can say that the leaves bearing microsporangia are called microsporophyll and the leaves bearing megasporangia are called megasporophyll. Got it? Now what is the function of spores? The spores then germinate to give rise to gametophyte, which is known as prothallus. Here the gametophyte is called prothallus. Okay, from where this gametophyte is formed? From spores the gametophytes are formed. So now come to the next slide. So prothallus has been formed from spores. Now this prothallus bears antheridia and archegonia. Got it? You know that antheridia are the male sex organ and archegonia are the female sex organ. So the prothallus bears antheridia and archegonia. Now in homosporous species, the prothallus is monoecious. Monoecious means both the sex organs, that is male sex organ and female sex organ, they are found within the same one, within the one prothallus. That is here both antheridia and archegonia are found within the same prothallus. So bisexual, monoecious. But in case of heterosporous species, the prothallus is dioecious. That is microspores form male gametophyte and the megaspores form female gametophyte. Okay, separate gametophytes are formed. In case of microspores, they form the male gametophyte and the megaspores form the female gametophyte. Okay, so inside the antheridium, you know that antherozoids are produced. So antherozoids are produced inside the antheridium. These antherozoids are bi or multiciliate. Okay, what is the function of these antherozoids? The antherozoids fuse the egg inside the archegonium. Inside the archegonium, you have got egg. That you know from the bryophyte slide or bryophyte class. So the antherozoids, which are bi or multiciliate, they fuse with the egg inside archegonium to form a zygote. Okay. Now this zygote, how this zygote has been formed? By the fusion of male gamete, that is antherozoid, and the female gamete, that is the egg. So you know that both the antherozoid as well as the egg, they are haploid in nature. Okay. Now once they get fused, they form a diploid zygote, and it is the first cell of the sporophytic generation. So diploid zygote is the first cell of the sporophytic generation. Got it? Now what is the function of this zygote? This zygote then develops into embryo. And this embryo then forms a young sporophyte. So now this cycle is completed. From sporophyte, gametophyte has been formed, and from gametophyte again sporophyte has been formed. Okay. So zygote, which is the first cell of the sporophytic generation, it forms embryo, which then develops to form young sporophyte. Got it? Remember it that pteridophytes actually show the beginning of the seed habit, that is seed plants, which are found in the next part, that is your phanerogams, which include gymnosperms and angiosperms. These are actually the seed formation begins with the pteridophytes. Okay, how? The pteridophytes show beginning of the seed habit, which gets gradually evolved in gymnosperms and angiosperms. Got it? In addition that, how you can say that the pteridophytes show seed habit? There is presence of heterospory. There is reduction in number of megaspores per megasporangium to 1. Then retention of megaspores in megasporangium until the development of embryo. Okay, these are the seed habit of gymnosperms and angiosperms, which have actually evolved in the pteridophytes. Okay, the presence of heterospory, reduction of number of megaspores per megasporangium to 1, then retention of megaspores in megasporangium until the embryo development are some of the seed habits found in case of pteridophytes, which gradually get evolved and totally develops into seeds in case of gymnosperms and angiosperms. Got it? So let us find out what is the classification of pteridophytes, how it can be classified. Well, on the basis of sporophyte, pteridophytes can be divided into your 4 types. What are those? Psyllopsida, Lycopsida, Sphenopsida, then Pteropsida. Okay. As far as Psyllopsida are concerned, they include rootless, leafless, vascular plants. Okay. Rootless, leafless, vascular plants are included under Psyllopsida. Example is Xylotum. Lycopsida includes your herbaceous plants, small herbaceous plants up to which attain up to a height of 2 feet. Okay, example is Lycopodium and Selaginella. And these Lycopsida or Lycopsids, they are commonly called as club moss or spike moss. Okay. Now Sphenopsida, the third one is Sphenopsida, which are commonly known as horsetails. They have jointed stems with silica on their epidermal walls. Okay. Then they have scale leaves, and these are homosporous in nature. Example is Equisetum. Then Pteropsida. These have large green leaves with complex vascular tissue. Example is Bryopteris and Adiantum. So these are the various classifications, the various categories which of pteridophytes which are divided on the basis of their type of sporophyte. Got it? Now come to the life cycle of your pteridophyte. As we have studied, the pteridophyte, the plant body is a sporophyte. As you can see here, it is a sporophyte. Okay, plant body is a sporophyte. Now plant body sporophyte has got sporophylls. This one is sporophylls. Now sporophyll bears your sporangium. Now here you can see sporangium. Now sporangium has spores. The spores on germination produce young gametophyte which develops to form your prothallus. You can say this one as prothallus. Now prothallus bears antheridium as well as archegonium depending upon whether it is monoecious or dioecious species. Inside an antheridium there is presence of antherozoids, or you can say that sperm, which fuses with the egg present inside the archegonium. Now fusion results in the formation of zygote. Okay, fusion, which is otherwise known as fertilization, results in the formation of zygote. Now zygote gives rise to embryo, and embryo further develops to form a young sporophyte. So this completes the entire life cycle of your pteridophyte. Okay, it involves a sporophytic phase which is diploid in nature, and a gametophytic phase which is a very small one represented by the prothallus. Got it? Which is haploid in nature, and this prothallus or gametophyte is totally dependent on sporophyte for its survival. Got it? So with this we can conclude that the pteridophytes are much more evolved than the bryophytes. Okay, I hope this particular video would be helpful for you in understanding the pteridophyte. Thank you.